now because
I
this is
know.
all the fun stuff.
Chrislyn and Gloria
They're like
together
best friends.
again.
They're best friends. I see
They're
them as
besties.
besties.
I love it.
Besties.
She's my lifeline. I'm telling you, I'm not drowning because I have Crystalline here next to me.
I know. Both of you guys.
Oh,
I'm so happy for you. I love this. Well, I'll be with Gigi.
I know.
I
We'll
know. I'm so
find
glad.
out.
We're all so
Like,
happy for that.
we can wait. We can wait. We can wait.
Mhm.
salud,
Oh
salud.
yeah, and she's doing no, she's celebrating Thanksgiving with Gigi.
Mhm.
I am, yes.
That's so cool.
Mhm.
That's so nice.
Yes, I'll be staying with Gigi. Send me a Zoom, honey. I can't. You said honey bun. I said,
Ah, it's recorded. Be careful, it's recorded.
oh, I totally did. I totally did it on purpose, just so you know. Claimed. No, not.
Mhm.
Sending the link, my friend. All right, here we go.
So when are you flying to Georgia?
Oh, I'm driving.
Oh, nice. How long will it take you?
Oh, like 6 hours. I drive more than that in Lyft. So,
Oh,
like, I'm just like
6 hours from where you are to Gigi?
from New Orleans
Nothing.
to
That's
Atlanta. It's nothing. It's nothing. And I
nice.
better stop at a Buc-ee's. So, I love me and my Buc-ee's. So I
I
can pick up
love
some
Bucky's too.
fudge.
Hmm. I've gotten
What
that
is
Bucky's fudge.
what is
Yummy, yummy.
Bucky's? What is Bucky's?
What
Buc-ee's
is
is just,
Bucky's?
it's like the Walmart of like the road travelers.
I would say just that.
I don't know. I would say it's more like a Target or a Nordstrom's of gas stations. It's
You are
crazy.
so generous. I love that you said
Yeah.
that.
It's this massive gas station that's over the top.
Yeah, it is huge. It's big in
Yeah.
Texas.
Awesome.
I see
Hmm.
Heidi. I see Lulu. I see Danny.
Yes.
I see Michelle.
Oh,
Excellent. And you always know.
I've been to the Buc-ee's in Tennessee. Wait,
Uh-huh.
Tennessee? Yeah, just like as you go to the Smoky Mountains, and they have a car wash there. It's like car wash times three. It's like you get
I
washed,
love
and then they
Buc-ee's.
soap you up and scrub you again, soap you up and scrub you again, and then it's like
It's
being a ride.
crazy. It's
Yeah.
Careful
crazy.
there. Soap you up and scrub you again, ma'am.
Shh. Wax on, wax off.
I'm
Wax
loving the
on.
analogies. Y'all are so sassy. I love it. I love all the good vibes tonight. This is
Mm.
really
That's
exciting.
what the beach does to you. I went to the beach today.
Oh,
Mm.
nice. We went
Hmm.
on Friday.
So
You going
Melissa,
on Friday?
Lonnie, and Annabelle, Krislan, and team, we are super excited to celebrate your success because that is.
Email, that's
I told Lulu, by the
awesome.
way. I did. I called him straight
Ay,
away.
rico. Qué
So
rico.
he's gonna celebrate y'all for sure.
We are blushing, you can tell, right?
Oh my gosh.
We are also
This super
excited.
warms my heart.
Yay! Melissa,
We have two more
Melissa
going
Daniel is
in
giving you
by
a
Hug,
big
hug,
hug.
hug,
Friday.
Melissa, I'm giving you a
hug.
big hug.
Big hug.
She says here we're blushing, but we're tearing.
We are completely.
Tear eye.
You guys don't know. Since I joined GGU, I'm with you guys. You have lit up that fire within me. I am having fun with each one of you. I love to death that
I
meeting
can
you.
feel it. I
I'm
feel your fire.
And I want to
uh,
also
Say
celebrate
more.
Heidi and Danny because
Heidi
Heidi
and
and Danny were your
Danny.
TC Dispo team.
hey, hey,
So
hey.
that's
Thank you so
exciting.
much.
They're part of it. So this is a super team effort. So
Yeah.
congratulations to
They
all of
did
you.
miracles, Heidi and Danny on Annabelle House. They did miracles.
Lou, I don't know if you've seen what we're talking about, Annabelle House.
Uh-uh.
Wait for it, though.
Never
All
gonna forget.
Wait for it, though. Connie, welcome, baby. Good to see you. Good to have you.
Hi.
Hi.
So,
right.
yes, congratulations, everyone. I mean, not even what, there were 6 weeks in, 4 properties in, moving on to, we actually have two more up our sleeve by Friday. So, we are just really excited,
We may have
moving,
one almost
making
done
moves.
deal. If
Wow.
Making
Gigi
moves.
agrees with the numbers, we may have another done deal. I'm just waiting on Gigi.
Hey, we've been busy today, okay?
I'm sure.
Got a
Are you
lot.
gonna
We got a lot we're doing for you all.
are you gonna share with us about the other two, or that the cat's not out of you gotta
Please.
keep the cat in the
Okay, you
bag
got to
for a
keep the
while?
cat in the bag right now for those two because they
Okay,
are
that's fine.
outside GGU girls that we are going to be
Okay.
celebrating. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. So hopefully they will join us next week to hear their congratulations as well. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much. So tonight we have our very special guest continuing our series. Lulu is in the house once more. And that's exciting because we always love all of his knowledge to take it all in and ask all the questions,
Yeah,
because
that's
he
right.
wants them, all of them.
That's all right. That's
So
right.
let's do it. I'm opening up the floor first to any questions that anybody might have
Yep.
before we move into what Lulu has planned for us tonight. Okay? Don't be
Yep.
shy.
Yeah,
Don't
don't
be
be shy.
shy. Don't be shy.
Any recap that you guys had, anything you went through that you might be a little confused about, that you feel like you have a pretty good understanding, but you might have one or two questions to kind of get you over the finish line, anything like that. Um, any deals that you guys are working on, that you might need another piece, another leg of exit strategy or something like that, or a question, anything like that. Um, Feel free to jump in anytime. Don't feel like you have to raise your hand or anything like that. Just unmute yourself or wave your hand or whatever. Or if you type it in the chat, Christina reads them for me. Yeah, I can't really see them. So basically today what we'll do, this will be the second leg of kind of running comparables. We'll go back over what we went over the first time, which was kind of the basic law, basic understanding, right? Where you can run comps to where you should feel confident knowing inside of a 10 or 15, $20,000 radius or kind of box what your property would be worth. The next part we're going to go over today is where you get it inside 3 to 5,000. This is going to be the plus and minus variable stuff that we're going to go over today. And then this will allow you guys to have the one part completely done. Now, the only thing that you need to figure out after tonight is your rehab budgets, which will be the next 3 weeks of underwriting. After tonight, we're going to do 3 weeks of underwriting. I'm not really sure what like dates and times look like as far as the holidays and stuff like that, but we're going to do 3 weeks of that, and it still won't be enough. I'll probably come back and touch on that again after the new year and really dig in deep with you guys as far as that goes. And then you have the formula. Then you just add your assignment fee or whatever fee you want to take away from the deal, depending on what the number is, and that's your formula right there. After tonight, you should be confident in putting offers in with having boots on the ground somewhere. Okay. You guys all probably know what that is, but what I mean by that, having somebody, I don't put an offer in on a property unless I see it or somebody sees it. I do not do sight unseen. I'm not telling you to not do sight unseen because I know people that are wildly successful in doing sight unseen. I just personally am not doing it in this market. That reflects more on the market right now than anything else because, like I said, when I told you guys last week about the days of us not doing any work, they're over with. Well, what kind of happened was a lot of people saw that they could pretty much just sell their property. That was a complete what box for $1 million, right? And we still have this concept and this idea. So the people that decided not to sell in 21, 22, 23, 24 in hopes that the market was just going to keep going like this, they've done no improvements at all. In fact, it's only gotten worse, right? So we're going to dig into a lot of that today. Probably some of the big questions that you guys have had, right? Especially, I know Kate's up north. Anybody that's in a colder climate or climate where, where I'm at, we don't have a lot of subflooring or basements and stuff like that, right? So we don't have to run a ton of comps with those basement numbers put into stuff like that. But we do have to do them with ADUs or garages or things like that, right? So these are the ones that we're going to touch on today, where we're going to do a lot of plus minus variable kind of stuff, to where you guys can really just drill those comps down inside of, like I said, that $3,000 to $5,000 range, where, if you have that conversation with that real estate agent, right, and they're trying to push that property at you, you're like, I'm not going for that. You know what I mean? Like, you're not about to push a comp on me that's 2 miles. Chris Long, the good real estate agents like you, they don't do that, right? But like I told you guys before, I'm dealing with a lot of on market stuff right now, believe it or not. Which I'm not going to say I do or don't recommend. It's just personally what I'm doing, because I'm able to structure my deals in a way where I have so much leverage, that it has become a strategy of my business, right? So if you are doing on market stuff and you don't have an investor friendly agent on your team, you are going to get those ones. If you're just calling properties and you're just calling agents on the phones, they're going to push their data and their numbers on top of you. We don't do that. We run our numbers on our side, and then we come to the table and try to settle together. But we never just blindly follow, right? Because Danny's phrase, right? Buyers are liars and sellers are storytellers, right? They're going to tell us whatever they got to tell us. And we just ain't going for that, right? So today is going to be a lot of, like I said, recap and stuff, because I know this was the last couple of weeks was really active for a lot of you. And comes with that is questions, right? 9 times out of 10, your first couple of deals you're going to do, you just barely get them to the finish line. You don't really know what you're doing, but you're not sitting on the bench anymore, which is how everybody that finds success does this, right? Gigi will tell you she probably did it the same way. You just start falling forward, and you're like, man, I could have did that a lot better than I did, but I got it to the finish line. So now I just go back and I just go over my stuff with a fine tooth comb, and I just figure out how I can get better at it, right? So yeah, any questions that you have, anything like that, don't be shy. Put a comment in, raise your hand, do all that kind of stuff. And then I'm just going to start going over what we covered previously, just a little recap as far as the first side of the comps, and then we'll get to the more plus minus specific stuff.
When we do get to the plus minus, I wanted to let you know that I live in New Orleans, and we are similar to Florida, where we get hit with a lot of hurricanes, but we're also below sea level. So we don't have any type of like underground anything here. Like, we build houses higher, so it looks like we have a basement. So one thing that we have a lot of issues with is because we are basically sinking, our foundations are always shifting. And then our roofs are always kind of messed up too. So we have, those are our two big ones that we have here, is foundation issues and roof issues, and then termite issues.
Okay.
Those are our big ones.
So that brings me to the point you just made, kind of brings into something that is a perfect segue into a point, right? Would be climate in relation to certain features of a property. Okay. So do we think that a climate in New Orleans, do we think a garage is going to be more valuable in New Orleans or rural Virginia? Okay. Rhetorical question, but just think about it logically, right? Just think about the logistics of that question. Okay. New Orleans, we got hurricanes, we got just heat you can't even believe. If it's cold, it's cold. We don't know what kind of weather we got. Whereas kind of rural Virginia, what are we getting? Like mild kind of summers, a little hot, right? But semi-mild. And then we might get some snow here or there, right? So perfect example of where garage, you could tailor the garage to add it to your ARV in New Orleans for X amount of dollars, and then you probably wouldn't add as much to it in rural Virginia if you're a competent property. Does that make sense? So it's kind of going to be some things like that, right? Probably the one that you guys been wanting to get to forever, which is the swimming pools, right? Those sort of things. The swimming pools, the master suite bedrooms and bathrooms and all this kind of stuff. What do we do if they have gold in the master bathroom, right?
I also want to mention that we're notorious for building extra stuff on our properties without getting permits.
Okay, so another huge one I'm going to talk about. Pay attention to this one, guys. All right. This one is huge. Okay. So picture this scenario. You go into a property, you're an end buyer now. We're thinking like end buyers for this one, okay? Just for a minute. All right, we can think like wholesalers. We'll do it both ways, okay? So as an end buyer, if I have a property that I'm dealing with on market, it's 1,400 square feet, okay? But it has an addition on it that's going to add an extra 400 square feet, okay? The addition is not an ADU. It doesn't have its own title. It doesn't have its own deed. It's just tied to the house. It hasn't been permitted, but this real estate agent is trying to push this as a value add to me. So what does a new end buyer do? They look at this thing and they say, hey, I'm going to take this and I'm going to add 400 square feet as a value add. Okay? That's not how that works for us. We have to pay all the costs to fix it. Okay? But we're only getting historically about 50% of that value add in square footage. So if we have 400 square feet that we think we're going to add to an addition, we're really only getting added value of about 200 square feet per appraisal rules. Okay. But we have to pay to bring all 400 square feet up to code. Tell me if that doesn't make sense to anybody, because that's absolutely massive as an end buyer.
So you're paying in addition, so that would be part of your rehab costs?
So if that ADU or that guest suite or that guest house or that in-law suite, whatever you want to call it, is like what you just said, it's not permitted, we have to bring it up to code. Okay. Now, if it has its own separate deed or separate title, like you'll see that a lot in Southern California, you might see that in Arizona, places like that, then it's dollar for dollar square footage. So if whatever dollar square footage amount you get on your appraisal at the house, I saw a question pop up.
Yeah, Connie asked, if there isn't a recent property with same square footage sold, do we calculate based on price per square foot?
You can. That's a great question, Connie. So you can, but again, you're just going to be really breaking it. You should get in the habit of breaking it down in terms of square footage anyway, right? Like that's part of Comps 101. And that's honestly the way that I do it as a virtual wholesaler. If I can't get boots on the ground, which I'm not doing right now, but previously when I couldn't, that's kind of how I would break my stuff down, right? So I knew as an end buyer that if I was looking at a cosmetic flip, historically, I was looking at about between $28 to $42 per square foot. So I could kind of judge that. And if the seller was totally forthcoming with me and they were totally honest about that legitimately being a cosmetic, and what do I mean by that? We're talking paint, flooring, some sheetrock, right? Like that's a cosmetic job. Then I could get somewhere inside of that budget. Now, of course, we want to get boots on the ground to verify, or even better, us and our contractor. But that was kind of a law. That was kind of a rule for a while, right? If you were talking in terms of like a medium rehab, you could start thinking in terms of like, maybe between 48 to like 58, 60 medium rehab, 60 being on kind of the top end where now you might have to throw in, you might have to mess with the kitchen and the master bathroom, put new vanities in and stuff like that, right? And then if you were going to a full gut job, you were getting closer to like 75 to 90. But you have to be really careful because you have to refine those numbers. Like every time you do a deal, you should be refining your numbers. You shouldn't just look at it, man, I just made a $70,000 assignment fee. This is my formula here. No, you can't do that, right? Because you're going to get left behind if you do that. And I don't want to see that happen to you guys, because you're right there. Like yous are all at that point now where this is genuinely what you do. You're an investor, right? But if you get lazy with the numbers, you don't have a business. Okay. That's just how this works. All right. So again, Connie, to answer your question, it's simple math, right? But you should be thinking in terms of square footage, especially if you're getting into the commercial space, because your commercial space is really going to rely heavily on square footage as well. So like I said, if you guys just get into that habit, right? Like just test yourself. All right. Just go through a property where you normally look at it as like the one that we did last week. We looked at it and we said, okay, this one's 2,000 square feet. All right. So do your numbers in your head, break it down in terms of price per square foot. All right. And if you guys don't know that formula, we'll talk about that formula after. I'll give you guys that formula and everything. But that was a way to virtually wholesale for a long time. if you didn't have boots on the ground or you didn't have, but I mean, all the people that were doing high level virtual wholesaling, they have somebody, right? Like again, I'm not saying don't do sight unseen or that people don't do it and aren't wildly successful. But why would you not have a verifiable resource, right? Especially like the conversation that Chris Lawn and I had. I was actually thinking about you the other day. I paid somebody $400 to go from Alabama to Macon, Georgia for me to put boots on the ground and verify what was going on in a property that I had just a blazing hot lead. Well, of course, the seller lied to me about rehab budget, and then I used that to leverage where I had to get him down to for the deal to make sense. And he told me, you know what, myself. And he was like, hey, I got buyers already. I got people coming in at this number. And I'm like, I hope you do. And I hope you take it because, if you do, you made out like a bandit. I didn't say that, obviously. We don't talk to people like that, right? But I wished him well, and I told him I'll follow up in a couple weeks. But what the rehab budget reflected, if I didn't get boots on the ground, right, I would have went in willy-nilly thinking this was the hot deal of the century. And here this guy had cracks in the foundation. I can't move that product to somebody, right?
Yeah.
So that was, Chris Long, that was where you and I were having that conversation. Like, at what point do we justify just spending money hand over fist? Right? So now what I did was I created a relationship with the girl that does it. She wants to invest. She wants to learn how to invest. So I'm going to teach her exactly what we're doing here. I'm going to teach her like the very basics of running comps and stuff like that. And she's basically going to give me like 50% discounts when I need boots on the ground in places I can't get to. So that was a perfect example of what you and I were talking about. Like, at what point do you start utilizing your resources and scratching their back while they scratch yours too? You know what I'm saying? Because that's a lot of money. Just think about that. If I'm asking her to put boots on the ground for me 3 times a month, that's $1,200, and that's no deals at all. Right? That adds up quick. I mean, let's think about that. You know what I mean? We're talking $12,000 plus a year. Right? So, it's just one of those things where that was just something, Connie, that was something that Chris Lawn and I were talking about previously. But yes, I think it's a great idea for you to just start getting comfortable with price per square footage. Because it's important. It really is. If you can go in there and you can just kind of like vet and verify your numbers and break them down on the square footage side, you're never going to do yourself a disservice when you do math more efficiently as a business owner, right? I'm not saying you have to do calculus and algebra and stuff like that, but when you figure out efficiently what works for you, I don't know if I told you guys this, but I know one of the highest level wholesalers that I know, they don't even calculate ARV numbers. All they do is they go on Investor Base or Investor Lift. I always get them mixed up. It's a resource that you guys have. Whatever one you guys have is the one that they use. And I'm talking like $70,000 a month, right? Both. Yeah. And they literally look in wherever they get their lead, they look in there and they see what end buyers are paying for properties with these exact parameters of subject house. They go directly to the seller. They ask for pictures and a visual walkthrough, right? They'll get boots on the ground to verify, and then they go right to the price point. They don't even care about ARV. They don't do price per square foot. They don't do. So why am I saying that? Because everybody has their own way of kind of doing things. And I think as long as you figure out what works for you, but you refine every time you do it, I think you're going to come out to be a great business owner. And I think you're going to do a ton of deals. I know you're going to do a ton of deals. Chris Long, what website are you talking about? The one that I was saying that he does?
Investor Base?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure. It's
So
one of them.
we have investor base, investor lift. That is where the end buyers mostly are. It's
Yeah.
a $50,000 investment.
Yeah,
that
the
you're
one's like
looking at.
cartel mode or something like that. I think you got to be invited to that one. I really don't even know. For me, I just use. I'm old school. I find 1 or 2 people that are legitimate cash buyers in whatever areas I'm working in, and I try to make them fat. That's it. I don't go crazy. The only time I'll start really like reaching out to people is if I start getting near, if I get like lot sizes, right? If I start finding lot sizes with like tear downs or something like that, and I need to reach out to builders and specific builders, you might have some builders that they only want to do subdivision land development or something, or they only want to build luxury homes or something. But I might not have a parcel big enough, but it's not a wholesale deal because the property's about to be a tear down. But if I can somehow do a land lot split or something on this piece of land, get the ARV, and then know that this builder is probably not going to pay more than 20% of the ARV, but I can get this thing dirt cheap down here and I can split these lots and sell them both or something like that, then I'll kind of start flirting with like, one of those platforms. I might pay somebody for Dispo or something like, hey, I'll give you 20% or 30% because Dispo is not easy. I'll give you 30% to have access to your software if you can bring me somebody who specializes in 4 doors or triplexes or something like that, right? So Connie, long answer to a short question. It's never going to be a bad idea for you to learn anything related to real estate in square footage. All right. So whether you're doing rehab budgets, calculating numbers, doing commercial, doing this, doing virtual holds, or whatever it is, it's never going to be it's only going to enable you to be more confident at what you do at the end of the day. But that's a great question. That's a really, really good question. Anything else while we're talking about square footage or anything like that? Anybody have any questions or anything that's been hot on their mind about that, or calculations as far as that stuff goes or anything? All right. So we'll just move right into this. This is just stuff I just jotted down while I was actually comping a property today. I don't go deep into them, guys. I really don't. My rules are pretty much 3-3-3. Once I get 3-3-3, I kind of look at, overview, making sure I'm not crossing census tracts. And then once I do that, I kind of look at lot, build, and then, physical characteristics like Google view. And then if I get those things down, I'm pretty much gone, right? Like I'm reaching out. I'm going direct to seller. I'm going through an agent. I'm going through somebody that will get me the answer to whether or not either in an hour from now, 6 hours from now, or 24 hours from now, I can have my contractors in that house. That's comping from me. I'm not telling you to do that like that, but you got to understand is you guys are pulling some comps on some monster properties. Chris Lawn's property. I think we had, I want to say it was Veronica, maybe. Like these are not easy comps, guys. So do not feel frustrated. If I gave you guys a regular comp right now, like the one Gloria did was incredible. You know what I mean? Just being able to just break down the way that she did, she was so spot on. The only thing that Gloria, not to put you on the spot, I'm actually saying how good you did, was the only thing that she didn't even get it wrong. It was just, she didn't think in terms of exit strategy on one comp. If she would have thought in terms of exit strategy versus comparable, she would have done it herself. And I told her that. I was like, eventually she would have looked through these and she would have filtered the one out because she was so confident and so detail oriented in her other ones that I know she would have double checked her work again before she did anything with it. And she would have caught the one that she had in there, which was an as is comp. So she had 2 or 3 ARVs that were absolutely perfect. And then she had one as is in there. And that's all it was. And she would have caught it herself. It was just one, probably one that I would have had on my paper as well. And I would have looked at him and like, well, depends. And then the conversation, but then you start the internal dialogue. Then you start deciding what the exit strategy becomes. So that's what I do. If I don't skid a property and then decide exit strategy and then have the conversation with the seller. I get a lead. I talk to the seller, figure out what their motivation is, figure out where I can create the solution, and then I'll kind of go from there. Because if I'm running a novation play and I don't plan on putting any dollars into this house and there's work that needs to be done, I can't pull ARV. I can look at them, right? But I need as is. I need feedback on the properties that sold as is, not the ones that are fully repaired, right? Because I got laminate, I'm doing a novation on a property with laminate kitchen countertops. I can't go comp one that's got quartzite on it and crown molding on, like I can't do that. It's not going to reflect the same way. But that was just a perfect example of, Gloria, right, exactly right. That was just a perfect example of just Gloria just working her process and then just kind of like siphoning out the one, almost like I'll probably give you guys a horrible analogy, but when you were younger, you just like pick the abstract item, right? Like what one doesn't make sense in the equation. Eventually, Gloria would have came down and she would have been like, well, wait a minute, why am I only seeing one, right? I'm seeing I got all these other ones of 450, 475, 500 ARV, and then I got this one that's 100,000. Everything looks the same, but what's going on? I pull up my Google Street View and there's a tree in the roof, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, that's what makes sense there, But again, Gloria, if you would have put that package together and sent it to a hard money lender, you 100% would have got approved. Because you would have sent that package through and you would have caught that one that was an as is comp. And my lender, my hard money lender would 100% have approved that package. Your first one, you would have got 90, 100 right off the bat. Yep. So that's a great job. That was amazing to do that the way you did. So, again, guys, like I said, you're there. You have it. I mean, you have this stuff. It's just a confidence game now. It's a rep game. I'm going to break this stuff down a little bit. Like today, we're going to go over stuff I was just jotting down: lot size, adjustments based on property characteristics, understanding your climate, like Christina said. That becomes like a garage thing. Garages become, a little bit higher ARV in places where it's potentially like massive snowfall or, hurricanes or 120-degree weather or something like that, right? Basements or ADUs. Basements and ADUs are another one. Finished basements are a little bit different. But technically, a lot of appraisers, and especially the really good appraisers that I know, they'll be the first ones to tell you sometimes they are not required to basically appraise on below ground. All right. So you got to be careful with that. All right. ADUs, and then, like I said, swimming pools. These are like deeper things. A lot of this stuff is kind of like underwriting a little bit. And then we'll just review what we went over on the first stage of comps the first time, right? So we'll go over the first and guys, remember, a lot of this is kind of like standard 101 stuff. Some of it is appraiser rules, right? Like I'll try to keep up. That's what I was saying. Keep the relationships with the appraisers because they're very good, the inspectors too. And then it's a matter of you guys finding what works for you and going over that and just refining it, right? That's all it is. That's just a process, right? So we'll just go over a little bit of stuff in the first one, and then we'll just kind of like, smooth sail cruise into the next one. So, all right, a lot of rhetorical questions, obviously. I'm not going to put you guys on the spot unless it's a compliment. So does anybody remember the first rule that I like to use? It's numbers. It's 3 numbers. It's the first one that I start when I start doing anything. That's kind of what I dig into. 3-3-3 rule. That's perfect. Is that universal? Absolutely not. Is it something that I use? Yes. Every time I comp a property, that's the first 3 things that I look for. I try to put together 3 properties. Why do I do that? Is because if I'm putting together a package to send to a lender, I want them to have verifiable data where they can say, hey, this looks great. I'm going to give you, yep, Christina's all over it. The more accurate comps that you have inside of those parameters, the better rates you're going to get when you pull hard money loans. All right. So is that really relevant, like directly to wholesaling right now? No, not necessarily. If we're not an end buyer right now, and we're just exclusively wholesaling, is that important? No, but right, like remember the first question, the first time I asked you guys said, how many of us want to be an end buyer? Right? Everybody wants to be an end buyer. Okay. So it is a good thing to start to develop that kind of thought process. And also it's just narrowing it down, because the tighter you can work these parameters and the tighter you can kind of create this box, it's just going to be more efficient. You're just going to get better at running your numbers that way, right? Okay, so step two, I think, was the one we went over. I'm all over the place with this stuff, guys, so bear with me. Was I know we had talked about major intersections, subdivisions, things like that. Okay, so I know Gloria and we were talking about a property, I think it was North Miami, Gloria. I'm not 100% sure. We had not much info. We had two good properties, I believe, on the right side of our major intersection. And then I believe that there was a ton of data and information crossing over a major two-way divider on the left side. We had so much information, and we didn't know if we could cross it or not to go over there and get that information. Yeah. So again, for that one, like I said, I'm not that familiar with that area. So the first couple things that I would have done was I would have tried to run as many comps inside of that, in that radius that we had beforehand. If I got two comps that were bulletproof, like you did, I probably would have presented it that way, to be totally honest with you. Because the two that you had were spectacular. There was no room for interpretation. This is what the market is saying right now, right? If I needed a third, right, what I would have probably did was I would have reached out to the high level local investors in the area. I would have said, hey guys, I need some help, right? Like, am I allowed to cross over here? And they would have said, hey, we've done deals here, and the market says that right now you can cross over. Okay. And then I would have followed up. I would have, Chris Long, you and I talked about this. I would have reached out to them, and they have appraisers in their network. Trust me, if they're doing deals, they have appraisers and inspectors in their network. Okay. And I would say, hey guys, can you put me in contact with an appraiser here that will have this conversation so I can be 100% sure, right? Because if I want to burr this property out, okay, so say I want to buy, I want to rehab it, right? I want to value add, I want to rent it, and then I want to refinance it. Okay, what's the part of the refi? I got to get a big appraisal. If my appraisal comes in low, I'm not getting anything when I go to the bank and try to refi at that 60, 70, 80% loan to value. Now I'm in the hole, and I got to double the rent to try to pay my lenders back. So that's why on the end buyer side of things, on the long-term investing side of things, that's a big reason why I always harp on the appraisers and the appraisals, is because when you guys, right, how many people have heard of the BRRRR method? BRRRR, right? Anybody heard? Just a hand up, right? That's heavily reliant on what your appraisal comes back and says. Does that make sense? Is everybody with me on that? As far as like, now you're starting to kind of see why I harp on creating relationships with appraisers and appraisals are important. Is because that's why if you try to go and you try to get a 60 or a 70% loan to value, and you crossed over a subdivision, and this appraiser says, hey man, you violated a rule, bro. I can't give you the appraisal that you were looking for because you knew you weren't supposed to go across here. And we're like, oh my gosh, I got $100,000 of value add into this property. I bought it at a discount. I did everything perfectly. I need this number to rehab and pay my lenders back. And he's like, well, you're not supposed to cross over this place here. It's a different subdivision, right? So again, just touching on that, that's more, like I said, that's narrowing. Connie, back to you on property size and square footage. I try to stay inside of 250 square feet. So I try not to go, like if I have a 2,000 square foot house, I try not to go under like 1,800, and I try not to go over like 2,250. If it's somebody I've worked with before, or it's somebody who comps the same way that I do, then we can get on the same page, right? Right. We can kind of say, so Connie said, can you cross a major street? So Connie, that's kind of something that we were talking about, Chrislon and I and Gloria and I and stuff, we were kind of crossing over major streets. So there has been certain instances where you can. Okay. I'm not telling you to do that because that's a major rule violation technically, but I have had conversations at certain market periods in time with certain appraisers that they said, hey, we're comping subdivisions here. Right? Like as long as it's the same build, say DR Horton's the builder, it's the same build with the same materials, we're crossing streets, right? And you're like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. So historically, no. And Connie, I would say as a rule of law, don't ever assume that you can, because you can get in major trouble running your numbers with that, right? So always assume until you have that conversation and that appraiser or comps have been verified. So if you have a colleague that was just in that 2 weeks ago, they moved the property in there, and they did very well, and they used those same rules and laws. Mirror the market, but at that point, you're playing more of a prediction game, okay? Because if you get deep into an 8-week project, they might have just did it and 2 weeks ago, and now you're buying a property. You get 8 weeks into a project, you have 2 weeks of overflow, and then it takes you another 4 weeks to sell the property. Now it's a totally different season. All right, so that property that went from being 2 weeks previously, one of your colleagues did it, to now you're 16 weeks away. Now that's a totally different season. That everything has changed in
Can I
16
ask a
weeks, right?
quick question?
Yeah,
Will it
absolutely.
also will it also depend on how well you know your area? So for
Absolutely.
example, like in New Orleans, we have certain types of areas that are the Upper Ninth Ward, the Bywater, the Marigny, the Faubourg Marigny, the New Orleans Musicians Village, and a lot of the properties there are like kind of major roads. So
Mm-hmm.
we have like Franklin Avenue and Poland, which would look like major roads on a map, but they're actually still within the same neighborhood. So you would want to go all the way out to like the main major road, which would be St. Claude and Franklin, and then Claiborne. And in between that, even though they're little major roads, they're all the exact same style kind of houses, shotgun
Sure.
houses, same type of like look, theme, feel, materials, and all of that. So would it come down to knowing your neighborhoods and knowing what areas you could comp before you like I saw how she wrote Kate wrote we learn 10% each way with San Francisco. I believe SF is that what, yeah, San Francisco SF. You can unmute yourself, Kate. um but that I'm like wondering if that would be something applicable to just based on where you live.
Yeah, so market knowledge is it, right? Like I've harped on that since we started about mirroring the market. Um, you know, Market knowledge is absolutely huge. Okay. It is your lifeline, right? And this is your business. Okay. So you run your business the way that you think you should run your business. All right. All I'm saying is just, guys, be careful because, like I said, if you buy, you renovate, you rent, and you go to refi, that appraisal is absolutely massive for the amount of money that you can pull from your refi. Once your loan seasons, you go to pull your refi and they give you 60% instead of 80% because you crossed the subdivision line. Now you can't pay a lender back. You're in a lot of trouble. Okay, so listen, you guys are more than competent when it comes to this. It becomes a certain point where those type of questions, I'm always going to tell you that mastering your own market in your backyard is the best thing you can possibly do, right? But you got to CYA at the end of the day, right? We got to cover our butts at the end of the day. And there comes a certain point where that's another spot and place where the emotions play a huge part, right? But we also, when we have that feeling that, hey, this is a risk I might have to take, right? As an investor, we have to take risks, right? We take a risk every day. That's what we do. But what we want to do when we do this is we want to mitigate them as low as possible. Okay, so we're always going to be taking a risk. I know people that have lost their ass, excuse my language, have lost their butt doing this, flipping houses, burning properties, buying rentals and whole, right? And Gigi will tell you the same thing. And I'm talking like 3 months. I'm not talking in 2 years. I'm talking it went from season to season and the bottom dropped out on these people. They ran comps absolutely perfectly when they were doing this, and then the bottom just fell out underneath them because they had 10, 12, 15, 20 projects going on at one time, and the market just crashed at once, right? Not crashed like 2008, but I mean, enough of a crash to where it's like, oh my gosh, we just lost every piece of profit we just had. So you guys do the math. If you got a $30,000 profit on each property and you got 10 properties, you got 15 properties, you got 20 properties, what's that look like in terms of a loss, right? Think about it in terms of that, because that's what you guys are going to be doing eventually. You know, when you have whole teams and you have, you know, kind of like you guys do now. I mean, there's going to be points in time where all of you are working collectively together on a big land deal or, you know, a ground up apartment building or something like that, right? And these projects, they take time because you got to go through so much stuff. So Christina, great question. I'm always going to say trust your gut, right? But also at the end of the day, the math matters for a reason. The rules matter for a reason because you're just trying to mitigate risk. Okay, so I just try to go through every resource I possibly have before I have to make a call like that. And sometimes there might be gold at the end of that rainbow in the pot, right? And those are the ones that make or break a business, and they change your whole life when you do them. Because you know you're not supposed to do this, but you took the shot. I've seen that happen more times than I can count. But the gamblers that keep gambling, they lose every time, right? It's like going into the casino. You know, you might hit the horses, you know, you might hit, I don't know how many is bet the ponies, but, you know, you might hit the trifectas, the superfectas, whatever. You might do it once, right? But if you historically play it over time, you know, the odds are slowly out of your favor, right? That's all this is. So again, great question. Local knowledge is massive, but we gotta be careful of how thin of a line we walk between local knowledge and the history that has allowed us to make money in this business, right? What did Kate say?
She was referring to square footage with comps. We were taught going 10% lower and 10% higher from subject property for a good comp.
As far as Kate, can you elaborate on that a little bit? That's all right. Take your time. Just speak up when you get the mute off.
Wow,
There
my
you go.
phone froze. So you were saying you do like 200 to 250 square feet each way,
Yeah.
and we were taught to do 10% each way. So it could be under 200, it could be over that, depending on the square footage of
Yeah.
the property.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's all.
No. I mean, listen, when I explain anything to you guys, and I said this before, don't ever take it like I'm trying to tell you what you've been taught is wrong or my way is better or anything. That's why I'm fully transparent with you guys about the way I do it. I literally run 3-3-3. How I comp with you guys, how I did it with Kate and Gloria and Liz is how I do it. I go 3-3-3. I do lot, square footage, and then I'll do build year and property characteristics, and then I'll do a Google Street View. Once I'm done with those things, I'm calling whoever needs to be called to get inside of that property. That's who I'm calling, right? Because the easiest one to disqualify for me is property characteristics. All right. If I'm being fully transparent, for me, it would be property characteristics. If I have a property that's built in 1910, that's a 3-story Victorian, and then I have a one that's got the exact same bed bath, exact same square footage. It's inside of a quarter mile. It's been sold in the last 3 months, you know, and whatever. But it's a single story rancher. I'm out of there. Now, I'm out of there for what that would have required. That does not mean by any circumstances am I done with these properties. Oh, you better believe I'm going back in to find out the answer to something. All right. It might not be a wholesale. It might not be a flip. It might not be this or that, but I'm going to find out if there's an exit strategy. Because if there's a motivated seller, there's an exit strategy. Okay. So, guys, again, not saying that my way is, and by no means am I saying that. And everything that you guys have been taught so far that I've seen is absolutely correct. Again, I'm just full transparency how I do it. If I get a motivated seller, ARV pretty much goes out the window in the first 75% of that conversation because I really don't care. All right. If you're motivated to sell your house, legitimately motivated, we're getting this thing at a discount. We're going to figure out what the exit strategy is. All right. And then we're just going to go from there because I might have to go in backdoor on a creative deal that up until 5 years ago, you would have been like crucified for speaking about this kind of stuff, right? Like what are you doing? You know, so not to go off of that again, guys, but remember, like, you know, I know Gigi's teaching you guys about motivation. Stick with that, okay? Because this is what all this surrounds. All right. We can talk numbers all day till we're all blue in the face and falling asleep and drooling at the table. But if we don't have a seller that is genuinely ready to sell us our property, it's kind of just like we're just doing that, right? Like we're just having conversations to say, hey, do you mind if I follow back in 6 weeks? Do you mind if I follow up with you in 6 weeks? Right. And it's just a vicious cycle. When they're ready to go, they're ready to go. Right. So you just need to find out what the pain point is, work the pain point, and then figure out your exit strategy and then calculate whatever numbers you need based off that. Okay. So again, full transparency, that's what I do. Is that the right way? I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just kind of how I like to do things and stuff like that. But you know, these are principles that are very, very important, especially if you start getting to like upper echelon land deals and you start getting to like building spec houses. Connie, Christina, can you read what Connie said? And I think Kate put a message in there too. I think I missed that one.
Kate wrote, by the time I got that info out, we were way past it. Sorry to take it backwards. Never be sorry. We can
No,
repeat
Kate,
it
no,
over
no,
and
no,
over
no,
and
no, no,
over again.
no. Yeah, hell
Completely.
no.
Don't ever feel, no. We can
I'm
always go
so
back. Sometimes
yeah.
somebody's afraid to say something. It's completely fine.
No, don't ever be afraid to say anything at all because I'm so all over the place all the time. I'm sure you guys have a hard time keeping up with me. I don't know half the time what the hell I was talking about last, you know? So don't
Connie
know.
asks, what if the comps are also sold as fixers or sold at pre-ARV?
So Connie, are you saying so when you say fixer, are you saying they're being marketed as properties that need rehab, or are you saying fixer as in they have ARVs on them from being finished?
No, no, what I meant is like they're sold also like all the comps, like for example, they're all the houses there are kind of need rehab, right?
Hmm.
So they're sold at a lower price. So it's hard to find ARV comps. Like,
So that would where you answered your own question. What was the question that you asked me earlier about square footage?
oh,
Remember the question
okay.
you asked me about square footage? You're answering your own
Okay.
question right here. So take the square footage of the property, look up what the current rates are going for as far as um, uh, cosmetic, medium, heavy, and full gut, and do your numbers like that, right? Are they going to be perfect? No, absolutely not. That's where you need your contractor to come in and give you the budget. And then you go back and you try to extract data. Connie, if you don't have information, you don't have information, but that doesn't mean the deal is dead. Okay. If all you have is as is information, then you need to tailor your exit strategy to whatever information that the market is giving you. All right. That's what I was telling you about. When you find motivation, you don't need to decide your exit strategy before you find seller motivation. You need to find seller motivation and then you need to find exit strategy. Because when you define yourself as a wholesaler, all a wholesaler is a high paying job. All right. Let's face it. How many of us feel like we're still, yes, do we love what we do? And is there exponentially more money in it than what most of us are probably doing now? Of course. and freedom and all these other things. But let's face it, put your hand up if we're still busting our butt. I know I am. I'm out here calling people. I'm out here knocking on doors. I'm going to freaking seminars. I'm calling this person. I'm calling that person. I'm paying money for off market. I mean, this is a full-time job. So Connie, if you put it into one box and you don't figure out seller motivation and then exit strategy, you just get stuck on these comps. Because if you call that seller on the phone and you have that conversation with them, you build that rapport, you find that pain point, and then you create that solution. Now you figure out instead of sitting on the sideline with paralysis analysis, like, shit, I don't have one piece of information that's valuable about this property. You don't need it. Find out what the pain is and then work off of that. Have the conversation first, build the rapport. And if you listen close enough, a lot of times they'll tell you what they're looking for. Does that make sense? I hope that answers your question. I kind of went a little off there, but again, not that you're doing anything wrong, because you're not. You and I have had conversations. You do great when we talk about all this stuff, right? But what we don't want to do is just get lost in translation and forget what the priority is. The priority is get good lead flow, which you already have. You already have the best lead flow that you're going to get, unless you're spending $20,000 a month, right? You have great lead flow, okay? And then have the conversation, build a rapport, get the feedback. Because a lot of times, if we listen to the right things, they're going to tell us the exit strategy in the middle of the conversation. Does that make sense, Connie?
It does. It does.
Right?
Thank you.
Because what's the point, Connie? Let's think about it like this, right? Let's think about it in terms of, what's the point of running these numbers, having these numbers absolutely bulletproof, calling the seller on the phone, making our pitch, and they're like, nah, not interested. Don't follow up either. I'm done with you. I got somebody else. Click. What we just did all this homework. We just did all these numbers. We went crazy, driving ourselves nuts to create the perfect formula. And I don't even have any feedback. I can't even get the seller on the phone. You see what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. Gotcha.
So unfortunately, we got to get to that part where it sounds like, and you and I will talk more about this. We got to get to where we're prioritizing conversations and building rapport, and then working numbers next. That needs to be our new sequence. Okay. And you and I will follow up. Yeah, that's Gigi does the same thing I do. I told you guys this before. I'm not telling you to do this, but what I'll do is hey, Mr. Seller, how you doing? You still interested in selling 123 Main Street? Oh yeah, whatever. What are you, a wholesaler? Oh, no, I'm an investor with a network of capital investors, and we're here to help solve your problem, right? And oh, well, I don't want to sell a house. I've been in here for 75 years. 75 years? Goodness gracious. I can't even count to 75. Well, yeah, it's because I was a math teacher and you weren't. Math teacher? Where were you a math teacher at? I was a math teacher in San Francisco, California. I was just at the 49ers game last week. You see where I'm getting at? Right? And then he goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And then next thing you know, you have the conversation. His wife just died 2 weeks ago, and that's why he wants to get rid of the house. So he really doesn't care, right? And what Gigi and I do is, in the midst of all that, when it finally gets down to that point in time, we hit, right, Gigi knows, you hit that mute button and you say, okay, Mr. Seller, look, I'm going to have to run back here, and I'm going to have to make a couple calls and a couple, this and the third. And some people, they call their underwriter in the back. Okay. Who's your underwriter? You are. Melissa's underwriter. Right? That's what Gigi's talking about. When we're on the phone with sellers, hey, I might have to, some people do this. Again, I don't do it, but some people do. I just like to create that pause, because then there's a feedback right there. Connie, this one, if you hit that pause button and let them go, like 3 to 5 minute minimum.
Or if you're Chris Lond, you're calling Gigi.
Sure. And I'm telling you, the first time you guys do it, you're going to be sweating bullets. Your armpits are going to be sweating. You're going to be sitting there like, oh my God, I'm about to lose a $40,000 assignment fee. Let them stew it out, all right? Because the longer that you let them go, right, the more the hooks sink in. But remember, guys, we're here to solve a problem. We're not used car salesmen, all right? So we don't come off the other end of the line like, man, I got this sucker here. No, right? We don't do that because you're going to be sweating bullets anyway. Chances are they're probably going to get you because you're going to be coming off the end of that. Your heart is going to be, it's going to be 180. All right. And we're not going to know what to do. So you put them on 3 to 5 minutes, you hit the mute button and you run your numbers right there. And it's quick. It's like, boom. And all you need is one little piece of information. Contrary to what we all think we need, Gigi will tell you this. You need one piece of information. And all it is a negotiating piece. That's it. You find, go ahead, Chrislon. I see you got your hand up. Go ahead. Yeah, blind man syndrome.
We have a
Hell yeah. I'm ashamed of some of the tricks I use.
we have a question in regard to it was like the mindset of the person. For example, technically, we agreed on the price on the with a lady, maybe like 20,000 off, but she keeps saying you guys are in the ballpark. She's aware with the whole wholesale situation. However, she did not agree to sign the contract because she said she had a very stressful year, and she will rather wait for her mindset to be clear and do that in January. So I ChatGPT the situation, and even ChatGPT saying it's very risky because in between someone can come in and get on the
All right,
contract.
Chrislon, here's what happens. She hung up and you haven't heard from her. Okay. So the way to, or you heard from her and she's just like doing it out of a courtesy. You're never going to get assigned. You don't ever hang the phone up, ever, under any circumstances. Okay. So here's how it works. It's something like that. Okay. So, hey, it was a woman, right? So, hey, Mrs. Seller, look, if you don't want to do anything until the end of the year, that's perfectly fine. Let's get the contract signed today, and then we'll worry about what you got going on at the end of the year. All I need is your signature on this piece of paper. Then that way, when you are ready on the first of the year, I am as prepared as humanly possible to move it that day, or I will have enough time to move this because she knows you're assigning it. So we use phrases like capital partners, capital network. If I'm not going to close on this property, I have people that will, right? Because the last thing we want to do is get them close to retail, okay? We waste 30 days of their time and we can't show up because there's no spread. All right. So we tell them right then and there, that's fine. You don't want to make a move till the new year? We don't have to make a move till the new year. All I need you to do, if we're in the ballpark, let's get this signed today. Right? We don't have to do anything until the new year. Right? All this does is just allow me to focus on your property 100%. That's it. It's not like, because Chrislon, here's the thing. It's not like if she signs it today that we're moving it anytime soon. All we have to do is write in there our diligence period or the amount of time that we're allowed to hold on to this paperwork or whatever it is, right? Whatever state you're in, how that contract works. And you know all this stuff, you're an agent. Yeah. And that's all we're doing. And then when we come into January, then we close on her property. You understand what I'm saying? But we don't let them get off the phone. Hell no. That's death. If you let somebody get off the phone that is in the ballpark, you're dead. There's no coming back. The chances of you following up on that lead and getting them remotely close to where you had them is never going to happen again. Because they were as close as they'll ever be to the doubt being removed and just saying, you know what, I'm confident that Chrislon can get this done. Because now what she's going to do is she's going to go back, she's going to finish cooking dinner, pour her a glass of wine, sit up and watch TV, go to sleep, and wake up and think about it. And that's it. And then she's going to call a couple people and ask them what they know about wholesalers. And then they're going to tell her that they're the most low-down, shystiest people in the entire business, which we all know we're not, but they think we are because real estate agents that aren't investor-friendly hate us. And there's a lot more agents than there is investors of us, right? So if we let them get off the phone when we're in the ballpark, we're dead. We're dead.
Okay.
All right. So like I said, if you get anywhere near there, the conversation starts, it has to start getting to now, and now it's just exclusively objection handling. All right. And we can talk about that stuff if you guys want to talk about that kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't know if you want to talk about like how to talk to sellers on the phone and objection handling and stuff like that. Or if you
Yeah.
guys want to sit through and I'll maybe one day I'll just start calling sellers on the phone or something like that and you can kind of listen.
Well,
But
I
when we
think that
get
this particular conversation was mostly focused on comparables
okay.
and then focusing on that. And then what I think you wanted to do next week was do underwriting
Yeah. You're right. You're
and
right.
deal structure.
Right.
So just to remain consistent for the
Yeah,
next
sure.
40 minutes that we have together,
Okay.
just to kind of circle back to that. And then going into next week, we can go into deal structure with what you just
Okay.
said, how to handle objections when you're preparing for your deal structure, etc.
Yeah. All right. So last one I will say, just to touch on Chris Long one more time, we'll finish our thought and then we'll get back to our comps. What you did, you did everything you were supposed to do, right? The only thing is now you're at the part where objection handling becomes what is going to make the difference. And the conversation has to go, if we get anywhere in the realm of where you want to get to today, let's get this paperwork signed. Do you have any objections? And they're going to say, yeah, well, my husband's not home. I got to talk to him. I will sit on this phone until your husband gets home. I will wait for your husband to get here. All right. Whatever it takes, if you're in the ballpark, Chris Long, do not let go of the phone. If they hang up on you, call them back and tell them you lost service. LOL. What did Gigi say? Christina, can you read what Gigi said?
LOL, we just issued a contract that is signing for 100K below asking. He did not want to sell until February 28th, 2026. But I said, okay, no worries, let's sign. And we will close on February 28th.
Guys,
He just
literally,
signed that bitch right tonight. Smooth operator.
I'm telling you, it is not a myth. You just got to see it firsthand. Whatever, they are going to have a objection for you no matter what. And Chris Long, you just got the oldest one in the book, but you just got it, and you got it in the market that you want to get it in. All right, you wanted to hear that because next year I don't expect to be having the same conversation with you next year, and I know I'm not going to. But you just got to see firsthand. Gigi locked this property up for 100 grand off of what they wanted to do, and they didn't want to sell it for 2.5 months. She got that paperwork, that legally binding document signed. That's it. That's masterclass stuff right there. That's how it's done. All right. Because now you just got them in the pipeline. Now it's just like done. Right. Because if you're locking deals up for 100K under asking, you're going to have an end buyer, and the assignment fee is going to be like, that's masterclass 101. Absolutely. I love that. All right. So, perfect goes into step 3, which was market direction. Right. We all know market direction. Christina and I were talking about it earlier. Is it more important to stick to the rules, or is it more important to stay updated and mirror what's going on in your market? Okay. You guys decide inside of your business. Just be very conscious and be very cautious. All right. When it really matters the most is during a burr or something like that, or when you're presenting a package to a hard money lender. Okay. Figure out what rules work for you and remember the ones that are universal historically. Okay. Let's go over to lot size. Okay. This is important for comps, but it's more important when you underwrite a deal. All right. What do I mean by that? Okay. It is important that you want to have the same kind of lot structure. All right. But when I underwrite the deal, again, same thing Connie and I were talking about. When we underwrite this deal, then we can start thinking of terms of exit strategy. All right. So if I have a tear down, with a beautiful lot here, okay, now I can start thinking about ways to make money on that lot as opposed to that property. All right. Not going to touch on that too much right now. That's going to be more next week and the following week. But lot size is very important. Okay. Calling your county about zoning characteristics. Again, one that we're going to get into, but huge. All right. And then this is kind of where lot size differentiates a lot, is more expensive homes. All right. So a lot size on a $50,000 you know what box in a $500,000 beautiful home, that lot size is going to add value. And we're talking in terms of like 25K in certain instances in certain places. Okay. Square footage per price point goes astronomically higher when the price point of the property goes higher. Okay. But the land that you get from these shitters, you can do a lot with. All right. So if you got a $50,000 shitter in the middle of nowhere and you get that thing zoned properly or something like that, you do a land lot split or something and everything's above water, you know, there's no marsh on it, there's no landmarks, anything, then we can start talking about making huge money off of getting a builder in here or something like that, you know. Because if we get ARV at you know, historically, most builders aren't going to pay more than like 20% in this market of what the ARV of the entire property is. So we got to take that in consideration, especially if you're doing a smash down or a tear down or something like that, right? Again, a lot of underwriting stuff going on here. If anybody has questions that they wanted to dig into with this, ask, but we're going to cover this pretty heavily in the next 3 weeks. But if you're working a land deal or something now, ask, like speak up, right? Friends, I need to sign off. All right.
Good night,
Absolutely,
Melissa
Melissa.
Lonnie. Thank you
Yeah,
so
yeah,
much,
yeah.
baby. We'll see you. We'll see you.
Thank you.
No class on Wednesday night. We'll see you. Happy Thanksgiving. See you Saturday.
All right. Okay, and we're just rolling now. We're kind of, yeah, we will. Absolutely we will. Yep. Property characteristics. We're just kind of rolling now. Melissa Lonnie, what did Christina, what did Gigi just say?
She said Melissa Lonnie should know that zoning piece like a devil in high heels. She had this situation earlier this year. I had her do that work. I had her do the work so she would remember.
Yeah, I mean that's it right there. Reps, right? Reps and reps and reps and more reps until we're just like, oh my gosh, if somebody else asked me to run a freaking comp on a property, I'm gonna throw up. Guys, trust me, I get it. I get Gigi probably gets the same thing. We get so many comps a day. I don't even know what the word means anymore because it's just like, what do you want to know? Right? People are like, hey, look, can you help me with this property? Like, absolutely, I can. What do you want to know? Hey, what's the ARV on it? I'm like, all right, let's check it out. You know, and it just becomes like, oh, boom, 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 right? Like ripping apart characteristics and land and years and all that kind of stuff. And it's just such a cool feeling to see somebody have sending you one more. Send it, Connie. You know, I'll have you anytime. It's so cool just seeing the light bulb go off for people, you know what I mean? And that's really something that's I love doing and I love being a part of, you know. And like I said, these next couple ones are important. I was going to say things that I really don't use much anymore, but I literally just used one, and I'll explain it to you guys. All right, so next one would be adjustments based on property characteristics. $500,000 house or less, the bedroom might be 10K. Okay. All right. So Kate, that had to do with us. All right. So 4-2, 3-2, 3-1, right? This is where we're getting into stuff like that. Okay. This is where price point and price per square foot matters. So Connie, again, now I didn't plan this, right? Around your question. This is just coming up and like reiterating how good of a question you asked. And I'm not trying to make it to where price like square footage is a thing. These are just things that I've been mentored in over the years, things that have worked for me, things that haven't worked for me that I've taken out of the equation, right? So again, back to the square footage. $500,000 house or more. Now you're talking about when you start getting into like finishes matter. All right. Everybody know what I mean when finishes matter? Okay, finishes, I'm just talking about in terms of like now we're getting into the interior decorating side of things. What type of this? What type of tile? What's the bathroom? What's the, you know, is it sliding glass doors? Is there a rainfall coming out, right? Things like that, okay? Bathrooms usually plus or minus about 10K. All right, again, unless we're seeing the ones we see in the Hollywood movies and stuff like that, you know, and we'll do workaround and we'll do instances this is one again where I'll bring up a great point for you guys that I think I've talked about before. If you have the luxury of doing this, go walk a property that's near subject property. If you find a property that's on the market, that's an open house or they're doing showings or whatever, go walk that freaking property. All right. And take your contractor with you. Okay. Because this is data extraction 101 here, right? Like, how bad do you want to learn this business? How serious are you about this business? Okay. I plugged somebody in the other day with like the side hustle of the century. And the only requirement, I don't say only because it was a lot of work, but basically going on Home Depot and Lowe's and essentially memorizing every piece of material they have on their website and the price point to it. And then you can literally build rehab budgets for people. Something that they didn't want to take advantage of, but nonetheless, listen. Okay, parking in garage. Christina and I already talked about this. Parking in garage, carports, things like that. It's really climate dependent. It can be anywhere from, I've seen them go from like $8,000 to like 35 grand, obviously. And guys, when I'm talking about a lot of this, I'm not talking luxury. Right, Christina and I, the conversation you and I had the other day, right? We're talking like 500,000 and less, and then we're talking in between like our 500,000 and whatever number we're going to get to. Okay, we ain't just talking about 1,500,000 here. We're not talking about Hamptons houses. Okay, and then like I said, extreme weather, and then that just goes into climate. And then the two other ones, like I said, we have two more, and you guys are done. Basements and ADUs. Okay, so basements, these ones are really tough because especially finished basements in the north, Kate will tell you this, they add huge value. All right, everybody and their mama wants a finished basement. Okay, whether we want the man's cave, whether we want a ladies' night, right? Everybody wants a finished basement. Okay, pool table, whatever you name it. All right. Some appraisers, we love them in PA. That's right. Michelle, did I ask you what part of PA you're from? I think I did. What did you say? Reading? Was I close? I gotta be close. Let me know if I'm close. I was close. I knew it. Scranton Wilkesboro. All right. Okay. Yeah, some appraisers don't count below ground square footage, right? Listen, if it's zoned correctly, if it's permitted properly, if it's done correctly and it looks good and it adds value, they're probably going to do it. Okay. Have the conversation with your local appraiser. All right. And then guest house. If it's not its own parcel, all right, if it doesn't have its own deed, if it's not on its own title, whatever you want to call it, all right, you are probably only getting about 50% of that square footage area. All right. Now that's historically, and that may differ from market to market, but from what I've seen and the things that I've used to comp and stuff, historically, this one is the one that gets more people than anything because non-experienced end buyers lose their behind on this one. Okay. Because if they have 600 square feet that they're about to turn into a permitted addition or a guest house, they're paying for 600 square feet worth of materials and labor to get it up to a standard where historically they're only getting about 300%, 300 square feet of value on that thing. Okay, this one's important. So if anybody has questions, stop me and ask on this one. All right, again, another one more kind of geared towards underwriting a deal. But the better you guys are at understanding this when you wholesale, the bigger your assignment fees are going to be. Period. All right. That's pretty much it. Like I said, ADU, which is dwelling unit. If it has its own stuff, like if it has its own deed, it's on its own title, blah blah blah, it's going to be dollar for dollar. Kate, I'm going to pool. Was my last one. This is one that everybody wants to kind of hear and get to and stuff. I jotted some notes down. It's about 5 to 10%. of the ARV and the warm climate, Kate. Okay. This does not pertain to you in South Jersey. All right. This does not pertain to the peeps, to Michelle up there in Wilkes-Barre. Okay. This is warmer climate. All right. So if the ARV is 300,000, all right, and we're in South Florida, we can probably add about between 15 and 30K to the ARV. Right. Now, it's got to be a nice pool. We're not talking about some shitter with algae in there that the lining is ripped in half. All right, that ain't what we're talking about. Because what it's going to take for me, I'm just going to throw cement in there and cover it and just call it a day. Like, yeah, we don't have a pool anymore. Now, where it does get a little wonky, is if say you're in South Florida. All right, say you're where Gloria's at, and you have 10 houses on the street, and 9 of them have swimming pools. If you don't have a swimming pool, you can go ahead and take away a couple of dollars. All right. You can actually subtract value from the ARV. If you're in a family neighborhood and 9 out of the 10 houses on that street have swimming pools and they are nice swimming pools and you don't, you are going to subtract money off of that ARV. Okay. Very area specific on that one. We're talking almost exclusively warm climates. And we're talking a little bit more of like, I'm not going to say upper class, but family neighborhoods. You're talking anywhere from probably like 300 to 600K. Where does a swimming pool do exponentially more damage than good? Anywhere where first-time home buyers are populating the area. Anywhere between around 300,000 and down, that's not in a really hot southern climate, we're doing more harm than good. Okay. If you guys are end buyers, do me a favor, please. Okay. Say this as a commandment. Don't ever add a swimming pool to a rehab property. Okay. The return on investment is, if you're lucky, 0. All right. And that's it, guys. That is it in a nutshell. That is comp. Kate, solar's a little bit different. Go ahead. Gigi said, but wait, it can refer. Can you say what Gigi said in there,
But
Christina?
wait, it can refer to those cold climates. They have outdoor heated spa enclosed with hot tub.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a fact. Like if you guys are going after those properties where you're doing, maybe you're doing those high level novation deals or something like that. Because the chances really of getting to where you have a heated spa and it becoming completely destroyed, distress, there has to be something really bad that happened. Like it has to be a very high net worth individual who's going through just a disgusting divorce. Like shit is really, really bad, right? Or you get in a situation where it's just some catastrophic event, like a child died or something like that, and life just ended as they know it, right? But yes, that is a good point to make. If you guys are doing like those high level novation deals or something, where you're pinpointing, six, seven, $800,000 properties and going into them, and you just get. I mean, let's face it. Sometimes these wealthy people, they're just like, hey, man, I already got 4 houses and I'm done with this one I got here, right? And they might have something like that. Now, if you're at that level of ARV and it's a totally, yeah, right. So Gigi, yep, that was a great point to make because I didn't even think about that, but I've actually seen that. Where because it's not super common, but guys, if we don't think in terms of like one-offs, we lose money hand over fist. So this is a perfect example of somebody that's at a high level that Gigi is at, being able to process information on that wavelength and think of that one-off property, because I guarantee if that property ever comes across her face, she's going to have an exit strategy for it. Right. So that's just thinking, that's just having that subconscious intuitive thing that I always tell you guys about. When we're doing this kind of stuff, this stuff needs to be almost subconscious and intuitive. Okay. Like we should be able in about 6 months from now, we should be able to walk down the street, look at a single family home from the outside, right, and come pretty darn close to what's going on. Okay. Now, I'm not talking in terms of like breaking down rehab budget from the inside out. I'm talking about like we are our own Google Street View. We see what's going on. We go home, we plug it into our PropStream, our PropWire, our Zillow, our Realtor, our Redfin, whatever it is. We come up with our square footage, and without even going into that property, right? We see what it looks like square footage wise, bed bath, and then we should be within $10,000 to $20,000 in our rehab budget when we go look at that thing. All right. As far as like now I'm talking from our cosmetic, from our medium, from our heavy, and our gut. We should be able to break all four of them down. Then when we go tour it or go look at it, we break down our concrete distress level. Then we should be pretty close inside of there. All right. Guys, that's it. That's really it. You know, like I said,
Honestly, I do want to talk about solar because I know that there's a lot of houses. I'm just going to take us outside because
yeah,
the
yeah,
shop I'm in is going to close. But
yeah,
I want to talk about solar panels because I know that it can damage roofs, maybe or maybe not, and like how does that work? And also because there are programs like Lamar who are tacking on the solar panel. If you purchase a new home for the first time, they will tack that into your mortgage, and then you'll have like
yeah.
one collective note instead of two separate ones. And then they give you like a kickback for that if you're looking to purchase a property, which they kind of do something similar to like the knock-up program or like the USDA programs. And so now they're kind of tacking on. So how would you actually comp something like that or work around that without it actually causing damage? Because also insurance companies may
Right,
or may not want to insure properties that have
right,
solar panels.
right. So again, guys, I absolutely love where we're going as far as like this is the curiosity side of things, right? Like this is the part of the game where I can see how much you guys love this. I can see how passionate you are. The questions that you ask are so amazing, right? But
I mean, yeah,
again,
look at us. We're all here. It's still two
that's
hours
right.
in.
That's right. But again, logically thinking, okay, let's think about what level of distress somebody that owns solar is going to have. Okay, right, Kate, because it's not just something that we're just picking about willy-nilly. You got to do some research and some homework, and you got to have some type of budget to get solar, right? You don't just call the government up and you're like, hey, can you throw this on my house so I can get a tax write-off at the end of the year? You know what I mean? So we're actively making decisions that, hey, we want this type of um, we want our home to essentially run off of this, right? So there's a couple things that you have to really take into account. Like we need to know what's going on with that. All right, we need to know like is it attached to the mortgage? Is this, what's your note on this thing? Does it stay with the house? It's like, do we get it ripped off? What do we do? Right? Like do you take this solar with you when you move and stuff? So again, I would say that the first thing that needs to happen is that's a conversation that needs to be had with the seller. Because in my experience, and I haven't had too many
What if it's a new
interactions.
build?
That was what I was going to get to. So I haven't had too many interactions with solar unless they've been with new build people. Um, and even then, the numbers were so off that it wasn't even worth really going that deep into. So for me, I have two people that are like this is what they do. They've sold solar, they've ran solar companies, and they invest in real estate. They would be the ones to ask. I would not be the one to answer that question proficiently, but I will find out the answer to that question for you 100% from people who are experts in that field. For
Will you pass
me,
them along so I can interview them?
absolutely I will. Absolutely I will. 100%.
I could
Yeah,
jump in
so like
here for
Michelle said, some people have. Go ahead, Gigi. I'm sorry.
I'll jump in here for a quick second because I've had
Yeah.
quite a few of this solar panel BS. So, um, quite honestly, I will tell you when it comes to solar panel, I never ever count it, and I take care of it from the first jump. Once I get with the seller and I find out they have a solar panel, I immediately ask them, is it paid off? They say no. I said, okay, what's the payoff on it? Do you know? Is it financed by a different company? Blah, blah, blah. Is it in your mortgage? As soon as I find out the answer, I will immediately say, hey, that's your problem as the seller. If you owe on it, it's going to come out of your amount at the end of at closing. It's coming off your amount. You do understand that because you're gonna waste your time with solar panel. The last one that I did was in Savannah in your area. They had the solar panel, and look, the guy was like, "Oh yeah, I still owe like 21,000 on it," and I was like, "Okay, well, it's gonna come out to your bottom line." And he was like, "No, I want to continue to make my payments." I said, "Well, the title is gonna be cloudy. We can't close. I'm sorry." And he was just persistent. And the buyer was like, "I'm not paying for it." I said, "No problem. We got this." We called up the solar panel company that he gave us the invoice for. I said, "Hey, look, this guy's trying to sell his home. He needs to sell and he needs to be gone. I need you to terminate this contract, remove the entire 21,000, take your solar panel if you want. You could leave it there, whatever, but I need the contract terminated now because we need to close." And they were like, "Oh, sure, no problem. He's had the solar panel for the last 8 years. We'll cancel the contract and nobody will owe for it." And I said, "Okay, send it to me in writing." I want it notarized. They were located in Texas, and that's what they did. So you just have to have conversations to get rid of that issue. It's not going to bring up the value of the property. It's not going to help you. And now the government is getting stricter and giving these incentives. They're going away.
So, Kate, did you get from that kind of what I did, where it was less about the importance of the solar and more important of how Gigi approaches these situations, right? Which is what we harp on is she used the solar as a leverage point to tell this guy, like, listen, I'm in control of this contract from start to finish. If you want your title to stay cloudy and you're not okay with this $21,000 coming out of your side, then I can move on. Right? So again, it was less about the solar and more about Gigi using leverage and controlling her conversation and her contract from start to finish. Right? Again, great question to ask as far as specifics, but let's not get lost as far as what do we need to be doing from start to finish, which is asking the right questions, controlling the conversation, but listening to everything, and then controlling our contract from A to B or B to C, whatever we're doing with it, right? So that was really huge. And Gigi, I'm so glad that you said it like that too, because again, guys, it was just yeah, hell yeah. Um, don't miss the point, right? Like
Yeah.
don't get so lost in how important these comps and all this other crap is that you guys forget to prioritize the most important thing, which is solving the problem of a distressed, motivated seller and controlling it from start to finish, right? That's what we do. So again, Gigi, shout out absolutely, because that was the perfect way to answer that question, really. Same thing with the pool, guys. It's like a pool is a pool. You know what I mean? A swimming pool is a swimming pool. I guarantee you that the sellers hate that thing. I guarantee
Not
they hate
every pool though is a. So we have them Amazon pools out here.
it.
Don't go
There
there,
you go.
Christina.
Add 10,000.
I'm going there.
No.
And they will
No.
make it. They will make it look. They will make it look like that thing is above underground, because we don't have underground, and it's above ground, and it'll be massively beautiful, but it's not permitted, but it's an addition. And now you got an Amazon pool that looks like a real pool, but it's not a real pool. And there's an addition that goes over it. So now they extended their platform out without no permit, but it's a crystal clear, beautiful pool.
I know.
So they do that here in Louisiana.
Oh,
Like all the time.
it's outrageous. And like I
Big old
said,
kiddie pool.
I
went there.
I'm not. Listen, I don't like permit and zoning as much as the next person, right? But the person that pays for people doing non-permitted work is the new buyer. Okay, it's not the people that's doing the work to their property now. It's the new buyer. They're the ones that get it, right? So, that's kind of why we do it at the level that we do it, right? Is, like, yeah, sorry, I just totally destroyed your house, but you mind buying it for an upcharge of 100%? Sure, why not? Right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
But
but you just said it, Lulu. And you emphasized the point again just now, in which I hope every single one of them are paying attention to. It's not about the damn pool. It's not about the damn solar system. It's about the seller, his distress, where he's at. Handle the situation and close your deal. I can't ask
so
you to stress that point over and over for me.
I'm telling you, Gigi, I excuse me chewing my mouth full, guys. I'm addicted to these things, these Costco organic chunk bites. Um,
Oh no, I know them.
yeah, I don't know what was going on. I saw these things and I'm like, no, well, I got to try one. They said they're organic, so they got to be good for you, right? Um, no, the motivation. I'm telling you guys, it's everything. Because if you're, oh my gosh, if you're just fighting sellers every day, I know people that make. I was talking to a girl today. She called me on the phone, and she's like, "Lou, I'm about to give up." I'm like, "Listen, don't give up." I'm like, "Just hang in there." And she has no money, none, $0. And I'm trying to tell her all the free ways that you can do it. She doesn't have money to put gas in her car to go drive for dollars. And all she does is pull data from PropWire, whatever the free one is, whatever, I forget the free one, and True People Search. PropWire and True People Search. She calls 300 people a day. She shows me her phone log. And I'm like, I'm just devastated for her. And I told her, I was like, you can come work inside of my business. I was like, if you lock contracts up, I'll give you 20% or 30%, whatever. That's how bad I felt because I couldn't imagine. And then the quality of leads that you guys are getting to be able to actually have inbound marketing come in and say, people literally raise their hand and say, hey, I'm ready to sell. I mean, guys, we gotta have the conversations and we gotta make the offers. We have to. We have to. You're going to be scared. You're going to be nervous. You're going to make absolute shit offers the first 100 that you do. You're going to get them wrong. You're going to butcher stuff getting it to the closing table. The transaction side of things is going to go wrong. Somebody's going to cancel on you the day before closing. Your EMD is going to go missing. Listen, it doesn't matter. Find motivated sellers, find the distress, create the solutions, make the offers, solve the problem, collect the money. Period. I can teach you guys every single dollar and dime about a rehab budget until you're just blue in the face. But it doesn't matter unless you're finding distressed sellers who want to sell and you create the solutions. All right. So, with that being said, we are going to go heavily into underwriting because it is super important, especially if you're an end buyer. Okay. Underwriting makes or breaks your business as an end buyer. And it will only enhance you as a wholesaler. You are the people. If you get the rehab budget right and the underwriting part right as a wholesaler, you will become incredibly wealthy. All right. You don't have to find end buyers. They will find you. All right. And you'll need two of them in every market you're in, and you'll make them fat and they'll make you rich. Okay. And then as an end buyer, you'll transition from wholesaler to end buyer. And then you'll become wealthy, right? You'll go from being rich to becoming wealthy. So,
Hey, Lulu,
so
did
yeah,
Christina
yeah.
give you your own joke?
Did she give me my own joke? No, not yet. She's
Yeah,
been,
you remember the one you told us when you made your first offer, when they gave
mm,
you a budget and you went. We actually had someone come to us to
yeah.
this for a deal like that, and
Hmm.
Christina and I almost fell out laughing. I said, "Hey, this must be Lulu's twin."
I'm telling you, guys, I'm serious. I'm not lying. I know it sounds so ridiculous. You can't even believe it. I offered this guy money. He accepted the offer, and I told him that I would give him $20,000 more than he accepted the offer for. Thank God they had the deal already locked up because I was so scared of this guy. I mean, he looked like one of the WWF wrestlers from the 1980s with like war scars down his face. And I don't know what to do. I'm a kid, you know, I'm like, hello, sir. Would you like to sell your house? He's like, yeah, I'll sell it. I'm like, all right, how's 100,000 sound? He's like, all right, that works. I'm like, nah, 120, 120. I'll give you 120 for it. He's like, all right, that works too. I didn't know what to do. I thought I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. I might as well get comfortable at a W-2 because I'm never leaving. Yeah, it's humiliating.
We had someone do that to us. She came I was like, why would you offer him 140? Well, she said, well, he asked for 140, so I told him, okay, no problem. Let me send you the contract. I was like, what? I said, oh, here goes LouLou.
It's becoming our Novation deal is what it's becoming.
No, I'm telling you. It sounds like my protege in the making right there. Uh-huh. I'm telling you. It's so tough. Guys, again, I know I say it at the end of everyone, but just keep doing what you're doing. This is the best group I've been in. I'm not just saying that. I've been in quite a few of them. This is my favorite one by far. You guys got it down. The number stuff is just easy. You know, you guys got the number stuff pretty much nailed down. You know, find your rhythm, find what works for you. And whatever works for you, find out what's going to get more offers out. Okay? Don't just go out there throwing shit offers around, but we need to get to a point where we are making legitimate offers. Okay? Because we need feedback. All right. And then, you know, obviously you guys got the legal team and all that kind of stuff. So you know what's going on. But we want to come in at, you know, we need no's. Okay. We need to hear the word no. Okay. So if seller's asking for 200,000, don't just stick your middle finger up and offer them 10 grand, right? But give them a number that they're going to say no to. Okay. Throw 25K, 30K, 40K, throw it out there. Right? Hey, how's 30K sound? 30K? What do you? I will find you where you live at and I will come to your house. All right. 30K doesn't work. Okay. So then you tell me, right? And you know, everything works for different people. Some people tell you don't ever be the first one to throw the number out. Other people say throw it out as a feeler and then you're going to get real feedback from the anchor number they call it. You guys find what works best for you. Right. But we need offers to be out there. We need to have conversations with sellers. We need to hear the word no, and we need to hear signs of distress and motivation. All right. That's it. You guys got anything? Anything you want to follow up on? Any questions?
That's it for tonight. So I think next week's going to be exciting because we get to go over underwriting. Would you prefer to do before we do underwriting objections and then begin?
You guys tell me. I'm on your time. Whatever
you let us
need me to
know.
do.
How about we open it up to the platform? Everyone lets us know by sending me a message or LouLou a message. Y'all have his information and it will be in the description on this YouTube video afterwards, so that way you can all have access to it, and then just comment below, let us know what you want. And then we will do that next week, and then we'll follow up the following week with whatever we didn't get to next week. So
perfect.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you guys so much.
We will see you next week.
I had so much fun as usual. Thank you guys. Call me, text me, anything you need.
Thank you so much, LouLou. You're so
all right.
appreciated.
Absolutely. Yep.
Bye, everyone.